If I completed this in time, today this should be going up is November 26th, which is my birthday. Getting older means I get less presents, so I guess I'll have to treat myself by filling through and uploading a challenge run my personal favorite franchise, The Legend of Zelda. I previously did a no damage run of the previous game, Breath of the Wild, so naturally I figured I should try the same premise in the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. This also kind of ties into the new spin-off game in Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, but well, I'm off the mark for that. Anyway, my total deaths then was 52, so will I have more or less by the end? There is a lot of ground to cover for this, so I hope you enjoy it as I ask, can you beat The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom without taking any damage? Given how much larger of a game Tears of the Kingdom is compared to Breath of the Wild, I'll say straight away from here that there will be large gaps where I will skip over, like the majority of the intro. Picking up once we reawaken in the proper tutorial area on the Great Sky Island, let's go over the rules while I make my way through. The rules are the same as any no damage run. If I take damage from any source, I must immediately reload my last save, which I so demonstrated by being struck by the very first enemy. Great start. There are no restrictions in terms of equipment. I could use anything I come across. I will not allow the use of any game-breaking exploits, hacks, or glitches to gain an advantage, but it's not like I know any. To add some extra spice, I will complete all the main quests in order and not skip out on any by heading for Ganon early. And lastly, I will fight all the new bosses, including one of each new mini-boss added in the overworld. This will include the Flux Construct, Frox, Gleeok, Fortress Talus, and Phantom Ganon respectively. To save on time, I will not be mentioning completing shrines unless a death occurs in them, aside from the 4 on the islands as a part of the tutorial. Here we have our first meeting with Rauru, the one whose hand is now grafted to ours after the run-in with Ganon. With his guidance, we could acquire 4 rune abilities. There's Ultra Hand, a better form of Magnesis, and allows us to mesh objects together. Fuse, which does the same for weapons. Ascend, which allows us to climb into overhead geometry and pop out the top. And lastly, Rewind, kinda like Stasis, in that we could use it to freeze objects and send them somewhere else. I do suffer a second death while traveling due to a misjudged dodge along the way. But with 4 shrines and all the powers gained so far, we can enter the Light Temple and come to a crashing halt. See, in order to leave the islands and open up the game world, we must redeem the Spirit Orb for a heart container and open the locked door. The problem is, pushing on this door causes you to take damage. In my eyes, ending the run before it really could get going. While that damage isn't permanent, I still consider it a failure, as if you try pushing the door without enough hearts, you will actually die. But on the other hand, I will chalk this up as an exception to the rule on the grounds that it is required for story progression. And to jump ahead, this will come up again. For now though, we bid farewell to Rauru, and watch as the Master Sword disappears in front of us and transports itself to Zelda? Well, at least something found her. Now all we have to do is do that as well. Jumping down to Hyrule, our first stop is to Lookout Landing, a new settlement built on the old Palace Parade Grounds and central hub for us, complete with a Zelda-themed vault. I suffer 1 death attempting to fight a band of Bokoblins, but get them next time when the boss Bokoblin lights himself on fire. At Lookout Landing, we can meet many returning faces, the ones important to me being Pyrrha, who's no longer a kid, and Joshua, who is a kid. Robbie's here too, but for now my task is to check out Hyrule Castle, as it has now begun floating off the ground, and they say Zelda has been sighted in the ruins. We do indeed spot her when we get there, before she floats away. While I'm here, I do some more busy work by getting the towers up and running, and by extension am handed the paraglider. I wonder if you could complete the game without the paraglider, since you don't need it to get off the tutorial? Potential run ideas. The other task worth mentioning is to help Joshua and Robbie do some exploring in the depths, a vast underground region that's pitch black and eerie to explore for the first time. This is not my first time, far from it, and I can find and photograph the statue I was sent to find, with only 1 more death from getting beamed with a rock. This side quest isn't that major by itself, but will be needed for something later. With my business concluded, I can begin making my way to one of the 4 major races of Hyrule, as each are dealing with what the game refers to as regional anomalies. The game encourages you to try the Rito first, which I agree is best, so off I go. I make quite a lot of detours on the way, First of which is getting better armor. The armor rating is meaningless, rather I want a set to boost my overall attack damage, so I set my sights on the Fierce Deity armor, one piece of which is located to the west of Hyrule Field, and an ancient tree stump. Two dumb deaths occur here, the first after getting clipped by a Keese, and the second by using up my stamina too quickly while climbing, and then drowning in the water below. Up the road, we can find Impa, of all people, traveling the land, as she has been taking up researching those strange glyph patterns that have appeared on the ground. These are the geoglyphs, where we can find dragon tears. Essentially, they're the equivalent of the flashback memories from Breath of the Wild, and finding them is a main quest, so I guess my to-do list just got longer. Initially, I thought about explaining them as I go along, but I'd probably confuse a lot of people who haven't played the game before. As I want to save on time, I know from the 17 hours of footage this video will be quite chunky. Besides, it's not like I'm going to find them in sequential order anyway. Following up on Impa, we can rendezvous with her at the Forgotten Temple, which is an homage to a place in my least favorite Zelda, FYI. In the back, we can find a room with a neat topographical map of Hyrule, and the locations of all the geoglyphs, which I don't entirely need as I still have a saved screen cap of it saved on my Switch. A little while after, I stumbled by a Lionel and chose to stand my ground and fight. Man, I must have been really rusty at this because he nearly doubled the death count by killing me 5 times. Sometimes my timing was off, sometimes Link dodged the wrong way. Eventually, I found the groove and flurried him to his own death. Just up the road then, I can retrieve another dragon tear, where Zelda name drops me for the first time. Another death comes courtesy of me being blind and not noticing this Octorok hiding until I passed him and then he nailed me in the back of the head. Other than that, the rest of the way to Rito Village is smooth sailing and we can find what's been ailing them. Turns out someone's dad kept cranking down the thermostat too much and now the region is at risk of getting snowed in. Oh, and a massive storm is overhead, but it's the same idea. It's getting really cold. Thanks for my prior adventuring, I had enough spirit orbs to afford 3 stamina vessels, and enough rupees to afford some cold resistant gear. Here we meet Teva, the Rito warrior who flew us up to Meadow in the previous game. Now he's the village elder, and his son Tulin wants to investigate the storm to see if we can get rid of it. Tulin flies off in a huff after being reasonably told no, as he's just a kid, and we are tasked with following him. Now what I meant to do is ask fellow Rito to find him and use the cave network to scale in the mountains, or I could just head over to the Regent's Tower, blast off and glide all the way to the peak where I knew he'd go. After a scuffle with some monsters to get his bow back, Tulin agrees to team up and grant me his useful ability to create gusts of wind, pushing me forward while in the air. Scaling further up, we can at last begin hopping across and up some sky islands, occasionally fighting some more Zonite constructs along the way. This includes the Flux Construct, one of the mini-bosses. There's 3 different ranks of them, but I'm just going to fight one. Coming in with a drop, I can fire several shots into his weak spot, breaking him to the point that a few more clinch me the victory and a very quick time. Nothing else gets in our way as we fly. By jumping off the trampoline airship hybrids, in a sequence that is really fun to traverse. After peeking above the storm, we can enter through the eye and descend to the Wind Temple or Stormwind Arc below. Here we're introduced to how the 4 dungeons will go. We'll first catch a glimpse of Zelda, then the Ancient Sage will talk to us, and tell us in order to progress we need to open the 4 or 5 locks to open the way to the boss fight. Given the dungeons, like the shrines, are more puzzle focused and lighter on combat, there's not too much to talk about when discussing how my run through the places went. I know how to get and activate the locking mechanisms, and play it safe with a handful of enemies, so leading to no deaths. But with all the mechanisms unlocked, we can initiate the first major boss fight of the run, Scourge of the Wind Temple, Colgera. I will say straight away, all the bosses in this game are better than compared to Breath of the Wild, in that they're visually distinct from each other. But yes, Kohga. The fight seems intense at first, given that you practically have to fight it entirely in the air. But this is what makes him so simple, as all you need to do is get close enough as he flies around, stay below him best you can, and fire off several shots in slow-mo to deal damage to his ice cavities? Whatever they're called. Destroy all 3 and the second phase starts. All that changes is that he'll occasionally throw out tornadoes, which I can easily bank around. all the while remembering to drop elevation whenever he portals away as to prevent him from appearing below me. The only mistake came when I foolishly thought that the air gusts by themselves would break my fall. They did not. Slightly miffed, I don't make any such errors the second time, and can expertly position myself that I'm able to destroy all 3 weak spots in very quick succession, winning me the battle. Tulin for his part gets the Secret Stone, becomes the Sage of Wind, I get a heart container and Tulin's avatar to follow along with me. One last thing to note, and this is kind of petty but it is something that bothers me, the cutscenes in this game go on way too long in some places. And the worst part is after all the Sage boss fights. I'm not joking when I say skipping these cutscenes in particular saved me almost an hour. And the worst part is that they're all the same. It's really tiring to hear the same story about the imprisoning of Ganon multiple times from faceless ancient warriors. Enough about me griping about what is just a minor petty annoyance. Before leaving this part of the map, I can venture east and acquire 2 more Dragon Tears, one of which we confirm Zelda went back in time, and another where we see Ganon get his hands on his own Sacred Stone and transform into the Demon King for the first time. I also accidentally firebombed myself trying to get down a well, but we could just move on and not dwell on that. When we get back to Lookout Landing, I can enter the Zelda Vault for the first time, minus the unethical experiments, thank God. There is a dark force here though, as after clearing some boulders we can discover the Cursed Goddess statue, where I exchange my unnecessary extra hearts in order to build up my stamina wheel faster. Oddly, he can't be reached until you beat one of the regional bosses, by the way. Joshua and Ravi have another depths-related task for me. That statue from before is just one of many, and more stretch out in a chain that they want me to follow. While doing that, I come across my next mini-boss to fight, the Frox. Frox can be deceptively dangerous, and you have to strike the ore veins on their back to deal damage, and getting onto their back can be tricky. Thankfully, I know how. By stunning them by hitting their eye, I can run up the top and begin hacking away. Unlike a Talus, there's no need to run off when they get back up. Instead, the Frox will fling you up, and this can be exploited to stun him once again. I keep this cycle up and can beast the scaly overgrown frog in no time. Back on the subject of the statues, they lead me to the Great Abandoned Central Mine, a former zone I mined for collecting Zonite, a new material with various uses. Here we gain the last of our abilities in Auto Build, which just allows for instant construction of anything we've previously made with Ultra Hand. It is a good quality of life power to have, and this discovery attracts the attention of the Yigu clan, who decide to enter the scene. Yes, the main reason I'm doing this side chain of quests is for the purpose of making sure I get all the bosses, as Master Kohga is included in that grouping. There's actually 4 separate fights with him. The first here is super simple, as it just involves stepping out of the way of his constructs and then bashing him around the arena. Do this a few times, and he flees to the next mine for us to follow. I decide to go after him for the next fight. The place in question is another large mine underneath Gerudo Town, so there's some more Gerudo statues to lead me there. I do without any deaths, and can commence the second fight. Kohga now uses flying machines here, so now the play is to launch myself into the air and hit him in slow-mo with an arrow. It is advised to minimize being on the ground here, as he will use cannons, which have AoE damage, so best to avoid that. There's plenty of ways scattered around to gain more air, most convenient being rockets attached to a shield, and the second fight is over without a scrape. I keep this good feeling going by quickly shutting down a Fortress Talus outside Hyrule Castle Town. Its gimmick is that it has a platform built on top with a small team of bokoblins, all of whom I blew up before they could get out of the ground. The boards make it so I can't climb up, so taking potshots from the ground is the best play. Don't want to read a past trauma fighting this thing. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is money, and if I'm going to make the Gorons my next visit, I'm gonna need funds to buy the Flamebreaker armor. I probably have enough random items to sell to afford it, but let's get some more. Passing by Foothill Stables, I can encounter Kilton, the monster parts salesman, and his brother Colton, who after we give him something called a Bauble Gem, which I got from earlier. In exchange, he will hand me the Bokoblin Mask, which, while vestigial for its intended purposes, we can then sell it for 600 rupees. Just like with the Rito, I deviate slightly to find another geoglyph, and suffer perhaps the most embarrassing death of the run after getting bucked by a startled deer that had spawned in only seconds before. Now for the Gorons. The problem facing them is really strange. Bear with me as I explain this. Whereas the Rito had weather issues, the Gorons are, well, addicted, for lack of a funnier term, to marbled rock roast, or meth rocks as I remember them. Unibo, rocking a Lucha Libre mask, is acting as their dealer and has been having it mined up for consumption. Now Goron City is essentially a junkie den, with Unibo acting as the overbearing CEO of the place. Well, while I'm here, I do purchase the Flamebreaker armor from the Robin Williams NPC, and went to have a chat with Unibo. Here we see Zelda is seemingly acting as his supplier, and mind controls him to attack. Funnily enough, any attack, no matter what it is, will have the same effect of dealing Unibo during this brief fight. So by the power of berries, I brought Unibo back to his senses. Now with access to Unibo's ability to launch himself like a runaway bowling ball, we can escape and begin scaling Death Mountain, as that's where Unibo got his mask from Zelda, as he claims. For the most part, it's going good until some fire keys appear along the tracks. I can't hit them in time to prevent them from brushing past and hurting me twice, forcing reloads. Seeing the tracks is more trouble than it's worth, I opt to just jump out and climb straight up the mountain, which has some janky effects on the following cutscene, where Unibo is facing the wrong way, and I'm just stuck floating behind him. Once he's sorted out, we can commence the next mini-boss, a 3-headed rock monster named Moragia. Looks intimidating, but isn't all that much. Just takes to the skies with a glider and launch Unibo from the bow. One hit takes out each head, with some close calls dodging the fireballs along the way. With that done, we can once more jump down into the crater of Death Mountain, and here I spend way too long trying to build a hoverbike construct, which leads to 2 dumb deaths as I fail to safely land a test flight, and another where Unibo knocks me into the lava. So I shelve that idea and make my way to the entrance of the next dungeon, the Fire Temple. Only thing worth mentioning here is that the safety hazards, as I fall into the lava on my own this time for death number 20, and then add number 21 fighting a construct captain. With that said, we ring the gongs, opening the round walls of the boss arena to fight the next boss, Marble Gohma. And let me say, this is another flawless fight. Gohma's attacks are very slow, to compensate for the fact that you have to use Unibo's bowling power to destroy its legs, and then mount its body to strike the eye. The second phase takes longer as Gohma attaches itself to the ceiling. Require I send Unibo flying up the walls to try and hit him. I just shoot blind and hope that I hit. I'm more focused on the fact that he will also surround me with exploding marbled rocks, which again I need Unibo's ability to break out of. So long as I don't get greedy and send him too often, I can't avoid that danger. It is entirely possible to win this fight by just sniping his eye with a bow, as it is exposed during the whole fight, but I don't bother and eventually find my mark, breaking apart this rocky foe. Another anomaly down, and another sage recruited. With the Gorons now on a 12-step recovery program, I take my leave and continue east across the north of the map and end up in Akala. This is where the other 2 pieces of the Fierce Deity armor are located. The first is on top of Akala's Citadel ruins. Thankfully, it is not swarming with guardians this time around. No, instead I can encounter the new enemy that does a wonder at scaring the shit out of you. An entity I like to call the Gloomy Grabby Hands. Granted, I had come across others before this point, but I ran away as I wasn't prepared. Now I am, as I stand up where they cannot grab me, as they don't have any range capabilities, and rain bomb arrows down on them with the Lionel bow I got. Once all the hands are down, a wild phantom Ganon appears. Due to the gloom in his feet, I cannot just rush him down, instead trying to time flurry rushes to deal most of my damage. It takes some time as I can quite late on the dodge, but do eventually emerge victorious. Among his drops, we could find a gloom weapon, which is powerful, but I would be a fool to use it, as it hurts you whenever you strike somebody with it. Instead, fusing it to another weapon will give me the damage increase without the self-harm. The last piece is in the left eye of Skull Lake in the far north. There is a bunch of skeletal enemies down here, including a Stalinox, and I suffer one death here. Just one though, and with that I can complete my Termina-inspired attack boosting armor.
I can feel my strength surging.
Yeah, even with this armor, I don't think I was getting ready to fight a Gleeok just yet. Instead, let's go for something easier in the next regional anomaly, this time Zora's domain. Their issue is pollution. Mainly sludge from the sky is drifting down and threatening to contaminate all the water of the domain. On the way, I suffer another death after getting bowled over by a rock lake. Next time I say screw to the cave and jump into the ceiling instead. The next section is just back and forth chats between Sidon and his fiancée Yana as we learn the extent of the pollution. Yana will also give me the Zora armor after we find a particular fish, something I grabbed at the very start of the run as you can find them on the Great Sky Island. After this, it's some more talking with the fish people, whether that be a scholar or the king himself, as we reveal a magic balloon coming from the East Reservoir Lake. Before we can investigate it, the mini-boss of the section appears, the Sludge Light. We get Sidon's ability for the first time, and not to mince words, but it's near pointless. Like, it's a one-time shield, but it dispels if you attack just once. Regardless, with the Sludge Light defeated, Sidon can open the way to the plume by creating a whirlpool. That's just something he can do. Here we can find a cavern that somehow isn't flooded despite being under a massive lake. And what we're meant to do here is open valves, raise the water level to reach the central platform. Yes, but I have a better idea. This creates a waterfall up to the sky, so up we go. What's interesting here is that in the island's gravity is lower, so we can hop around and fly around to greater distances. The game wants me to clear the sludge to move around, but I can just jump over it, so why bother? There is one more thing to note here.
Hey, Patrick.
What?
I thought of something funnier than 24.
Let me hear it.
25.
At the top of the Sky Island chain, we can visit the bane of every Ocarina of Time player by making it to the Water Temple. Thankfully, this one is nowhere near as confusing and is rather small. So small, in fact, I finished it boss fight and all in only about 17 minutes. The boss fight in question is by far the easiest. So easy, I decided to flex on it by fighting it without any armor. The boss is called the Muckorok, and what makes it so simple is the low gravity. Who needs to worry about sludge when I could just jump and enter slow-mo at any time, allowing me to snipe the creature regardless of where I am and what it's doing. All that changes in the second phase is putting out more sludge, so in essence, nothing changed. So like before, the Zora have the most unchallenging boss fight in the game. Maybe though, I should have put my armor back on after the fight. Would have made Sidon's little coronation announcement a little less awkward. After this, I skedaddle down into the depths once again, as our next encounter with Master Kohga is taking place underneath Zora's domain. See, Kohga now decides to fight on water, and range is absolutely necessary to win. His backup sniped me immediately, forcing me to reload. Next attempt goes much better as I hop on my own watercraft, and the two of us engage in a Zelda battleship duel, each taking pot shots, then with a bow and arrow, and I with Yudobo's avatar, until I land enough hits to sink his battleship and claim victory. We can then immediately jump into the final fight with him as he flees over to a mine under Rito Village, where there's a convenient cave leading to a chasm right below the place. Whereas Kohga has fought us before on land, air, and sea, what could he bring out now? Well, how about a mech? And it was a total joke. I don't know if it was my experience playing this game or some kind of luck, but I steamrolled this fight. The mech itself can't be damaged, but a simple swing combo sends it flying back into the electric fence to knock Kohga out of it. Its attacks are easily telegraphed, making it not a problem avoiding damage. In the end, I think I got lucky as Kohga didn't break out any different attacks in the later half, because I know he has more moves, I just didn't let him try it as I kept up the pressure, completing this chain of side quests as he shoots off to parts unknown. With that detour over, I have my rematch with the Gleeok. Not the same one as before, rather I seek out one inside the gladiatorial arena back at Hyrule Field. This place is much better to fight in, as I can find cover to avoid the lightning and other attacks coming from the Gleeok's 3 heads. Gleeoks are definitely the toughest of the new mini-bosses, hence why I left them for last I guess. Hitting all 3 heads is needed to stun it, then when its health drops to below a quarter, it is imperative I hit them fast. The beast will attempt to fly its way up into the air, and if it does so, it is very dangerous to try and get it within range again. Using Ascend, I can gain elevation quickly and jump off to enter slow-mo, and have enough stamina to fire off enough shots to bring the beast down once and for all. After that, I can get to trekking over to the last of the 4 regional anomalies in the Gerudo. Pleasantly, I had no trouble getting there, stopping by for the regional tower and dragon tier. Fun fact here, the 2 Gerudo immediate on Ganon's flanks, that's Twin Rova, Ganon's adopted mothers who feature as a boss fight from Ocarina of Time. I love details like that, certainly missed that one on my own. Another fun, this time also helpful fact is that you don't have to go to the Gerudo town to get to the Gerudo part of the main quest started. Instead, detour to the Gerudo ruins in front of the ice storage. Here you can find Riju practicing her lightning strikes, skipping the first portion of the quest. The particular problem facing the Gerudo is a double threat. Massive sandstorms blanket the desert, having destroyed a good portion of the town as well. Also, Gibdos inhabit the storms, thank God without the ear-piercing scream. They cannot be harmed by normal weapons at first, but any elemental damage will weaken them. The best part of killing Gibdos is for their bones, which makes amazing arrowheads at 40 extra damage. There aren't many attacking Karakara Bazaar where we encounter large numbers. Only one hive that spawns the Gibdos in, so not an issue for now. I don't have many arrows left after, so I buy some more from the Bazaar as well as from the second Zelda vault in the game under Gerudo Town. The next sequence sees multiple hives surround the town, with us being directed by Riju to place barricades and soldiers to each gate to fend them off. I've made the mistake before of dawdling here, and in doing so Riju can get taken out, and if this happens it's a game over, which I would count as a death, so time is of the essence. So this part is a race without a timer, as I must go to each gate, clear out the Gibdos, and take down the hives. With Riju providing lightning strikes for it, I can make it through without a scratch. What a relief. Same goes for the next task of aligning some light beads in the desert to reveal a hidden mechanism. Again, we see Zelda disappear in front of it. Then after striking it with lightning, the dungeon appears. What is unique about the Lightning Temple is that you actually get a preview of the dungeon boss before entering. Striking the blockage in the entryway will cause the Gibdo Queen to appear, and she's certainly the toughest of the 4 bosses. Like smaller Gibdos, elemental attacks need to be used to weaken her, then she'll take damage. Best way is to use Riju's lightning strikes, just my aim needs to be improved for that to work. After a little amount of damage, she'll flee, opening up the temple. I would have skipped over this, but I have to bring up death number 27 to this fireball trap. Using a piece of wall as a shield gets me past, and another death. Moving on. Right into another death from misjudging distance between me and the construct. With that hassle out of the way, we can begin the proper boss fight with the Gibdo Queen. She has the widest assortment of attacks. Most often she'll shoot a beam of sand that is best just to run from than find cover. She'll also throw out tornadoes to block up incoming shots, as I'm trying to line up lightning strikes. 2 are needed to stun her, and allow me to rush in for some attack. Her charge attack can cover a wide area, but is heavily telegraphed and easy to avoid if I'm not too close to her. I say that, yet in the second phase where she calls in her brood to make this a pseudo gank fight, I stop focusing on her and get trampled for my mistake. The winning play in the second phase is not to focus on the queen until you take out all the 4 hives spawning in Gibdos. The less enemies to keep track of, the better. Taking one out provides a plume of light, which can provide a little shelter, but I find it best to stay on the move. things got much smoother and I could take down all the hives, have a very close near miss, and then put one last shot into her, winning the bout. All regional anomalies down, and with only 30 deaths, has me feeling very confident. Maybe, just maybe, I'll die less than I did in Breath of the Wild.
You serious?
Well, next quest is to head back to Hyrule Castle, as Zelda has been spotted there again, and once we've reached the floating portion, she'll speak to us.
Come to me. I am waiting. Waiting for you.
And I do what I always do when I come to Hyrule Castle for the first time, and climb all the way up to the very top of the castle to admire the nice view. What happens now is Zelda's location is given to us, but once I approach, she'll disappear again, and then monsters appear. First, there are some bokoblins in the gatehouse, then a Hinox in the library. Some Gibdo spawn in the stairway. But are brushed aside, as are the Horriblins on the road wrapping around the back of the castle. The two take two more deaths from a Moblin and a Fire Listophilos respectively. We'll add another from an Ice Keese, and then add another 2 to bring the total turret deaths to 35 from a trio of Shock-likes in the hallway. Well, that's quite disappointing, as I haven't even gotten to the hard part of this section yet. All the boss fights up to now have been pretty easy going, with few deaths if any at all. Well, all that is about to change and take all the goodwill I had away, as the penultimate fight is against Phantom Ganon. Oh wait, how about 5 of them at once? You ever have that experience fighting a boss where you nearly win on an early try, only to stumble close to the end, and then several of your next attempts fail miserably? Well, that's exactly what happened to me here. I was trying to stay back baiting flurry rushes to knock each phantom out. Failing the timing gave me several failures. The second phase has one phantom begin to envelop the floor with gloom, so anytime he starts to spread it, he's the primary target. The phantoms do get preoccupied with the sage avatars, so I'm not too overwhelmed. I just have to be patient and choose when to attack and not let my guard down. On the 5th attempt, everything comes together, finally triumphing over what I knew would be the first truly hard hurdle. Regrouping back at Lookout Landing, we come to the realization we are still down a member. We need to find the 6th sage, Minoru, who was the sage's spirit and Ravu's sister. I'm gonna jump the gun here and just say the place we need to go to begin finding her is Kakariko Village. After translating the description, this will eventually lead us to the Dragonlands in the southern region of Faron, specifically the jungle ruins that everyone believed were a preview hint of the Zonai in Breath of the Wild. Here we're given the hint to find some special armor and use it to prepare a ritual with a Zonai charge. All that can be found by following the river. I idiotically died twice here trying to clear the lizards out from the river, but can complete the ritual, dispelling a storm covering a set of sky islands. And this is where the run comes to a crashing halt again. Remember that door at the end of the tutorial? Well, there's another one here, requiring 10 hearts to proceed. After some debate, I figured I'm this far in, might as well continue all the way through with the main story. So after tediously exchanging hearts and stamina with the demon statue to open the door, we can find a Zonai head of some kind as we hear Minoru for the first time, who instructs us to build her a construct body to aid us. This leads us down into the depths, where we must retrieve 4 limbs for said body. As this is mostly busy work and I did not die, I'ma skip over it. We're not done though, as we need to retrieve Minoru's secret stone. I only suffer 1 death along the way, but did get some amusement making this group of bokoblins fight themselves later on. But now for the other fight I was dreading, the Seized Construct. My annoyance with this fight is that you must fight it on the back of Minoru's construct, whose attacks are slow and clunky. I made the mistake of having 2 cannons for attachment, so I could only stun the thing and not knock it back into the fence, like the final Kohga fight. Trying to swap out led to a death. This fight is trial and error for me, just trying to remember what attacks it does and countering them to mixed results. The second phase seeks to sprout 2 more arms and begin flying around. This is where the cannon arms come in clutch in order to bring it down, and it'll also stun it. It is imperative I stun it as soon as possible, as dodging its projectile attacks is very difficult when you move this slow. Third time's the charm though, and I can at last have all 5 sages recruited, and also find 2 ancient arrowheads down here, the best arrow attachments in the game. Before fighting Ganon, there's a few things left to complete. Primarily, and most importantly of course, is retrieving the Master Sword. I'm told to seek out the Deku Tree, but I know I can't just head straight to him. Instead, I have to go into the depths, and then ascend into the Lost Woods from below. The only complication for me comes from another Phantom Ganon jumps me and manages to grab me, adding death 45. I avoid him next time around, only have to fight another one in the bowels of the Deku Tree, as a chasm has opened up inside him. This time I'm ready, and use the multi-bow bomb arrow trick to clear the grabby hands, and considering I dealt with 5 at once earlier, this Phantom goes down without incident. With his tummy ache cured, the Deku Tree then gives me the location of the sword, and it's moving? It turns out the location is in the forehead of the Light Dragon, which we can glide over to from the Zora Sky Islands, and can land on the dragon's back, which was so cool to find out when I first played this game. Unlike before, we don't need to fail to run again, as we require stamina instead of hearts to pull the sword out, and it leads to a pretty awe-inspiring scene when we do eventually retrieve our fabled sword. With the sword acquired, I only have to find the last dragon tears before heading out for Ganon. I get to both of them with no issues along the way, but that's not all. Again, like Breath of the Wild, finding all the tears opens up one last one where all the previous scenes come together. In this case, Zelda, in an effort to get the Master Sword to me and return to our time, commits the forbidden act of draconification by eating her sacred stone and transforming into the Light Dragon in order to become immortal. Also, a nice touch and nod to Breath of the Wild as the silent princess flowers that appear after the cutscene. Finally, my task list is near complete, with only one task left. Getting to Ganon, however, is quite the struggle. To get to him, we must dive into the depths under Hyrule Castle and wade through a gauntlet of enemies, like these electric keys who get me. The first real hurdle though is right after with a Silver Lionel, in which my first try goes the way of my previous run-in, i.e. poorly. Another death occurs trying to get back to him from some Horriblins chucking rocks, before I can get another go with the Lionel. The same strats as before work here, I just need to lock in, which I do, reaping the reward of the best fusion items of the game, which I put on the Master Sword. What makes this section so nerve-wracking is that I am determined not to resort to save scummy after every fight, so I am at the mercy of the autosaves, which are not frequent enough for my taste. Staying back from the ice enemies until I clear them, I can then run through and jump further down to trigger a checkpoint, where the sages cannot reach me however, so I'm on my own. I make short use of a hoverbike to fly over a pit wherein another Phantom Ganon lies in wait. Before long, I begin retracing my steps from the very beginning, and put my guard down for this bokoblin to exploit. Regardless, the music starts to swell the further down I go. I reach the point where I once lost my arm, we jump even further down. I land in Gloom Lair, where I jump down one final time, and am joined by the sages, as we are now faced with multiple waves of enemies, starting with a horde of bokoblins who score a hit bringing me to 50. Thank God I don't take any more hits from the successive waves of Listopolos, Gibdos, and Moblins that come after. And now, for the main event, Yendol, the monster unleashed, the Demon King, Ganondorf. This fight is a huge improvement over the final fight in Breath of the Wild, for the fact that Ganon is an actual character this time, and for the fact that it is much more of a challenge. My first try goes incredibly well, which gives me an opportunity to explain how this fight plays out. Ganon's first phase is nothing new that we haven't seen before, as he will use all the same moves the Phantoms use.
So far, so simple. Get this health bar down and... Phantoms will spawn in the second phase, but the sages return to lend a distracting hand. None of them matter. I only need to keep my attention on Ganon himself, who will begin employing new moves like cutting across the arena. I'm more confident in getting flurry rushes on his standard attacks, so I keep close to bait them. Get this new health bar down to half and the third phase will trigger. Ganon will recall his phantoms and knock out the sages, bringing this back to a 1v1. The tricky part for me now is flurry rushes by itself won't work. Ganon will dodge them the same way that you would. When he does, he will rush to attack, which opens up a good window for a parry, which is successfully pulled off will open him up to attack. Alternatively, I can also just keep my distance, and in small lapses in the fight, I can get off some shots with a bow. This was equally risky as I can open myself to attack by not having my shield out. Unfortunately, as stated, this first attempt did not pan out, and I got caught by this one pincer attack. Here's a puzzling frustration that I never noticed until doing this challenge. I can't reload to before this fight, not manually at least. The autosave before the fight isn't available to reload in the menu. So what this means is that for every attempt that I fail, I have to just sit and let Ganon kill me in order to have another crack. Deaths 52 and then 53 fail to make it past the first phase, which officially confirms that I have died more than I did in Breath of the Wild. I did make it back to the third phase and dodged the pincher attack, only to get sniped by Ganon firing back. I quickly made it back there on the next attempt, getting perfect parries before going all in on the ranged barrage. I narrowly dodged the pincher attack completely this time and turned to fire and scored the final killing blow on the Demon King. Woohoo! What a rush! Well, we're not technically done yet, are we? Yeah, Ganon does have one last phase, but much like Breath of the Wild, I consider more a cinematic victory lap for story's sake than a really difficult challenge. Ganon, seeing his plans fail, decides to play the nuclear option and rips his sacred stone out of his forehead and swallows it. He then transforms into the Demon Dragon and carries up into the sky for the final bout, where we are accompanied by Zelda in the form of the Light Dragon. What we have to do in the final battle is attack a set number of weak spots that have appeared on the Demon Dragon's back, flying down all the while avoiding the gloom fireballs coming from the dragon's mouth. This should have been spotless had I not misjudged the distance from one of the fireballs and got clipped by one, forcing me to reload by landing on the dragon's back until I died. Luckily, there are no more mistakes, as I could slash away all the pustules and take my time lining up a preemptive victory selfie on the dragon's forehead. I then delivered the killing blow, shattering the sacred stone, and watching from a safe distance on the light dragon's forehead as Ganon goes kaboom in a massive explosion, ending him once and for all. One Zelda revive and rescue sequence later, we come crashing down to land, having completed the game with 56 deaths. As for the question in this title, I have to say no. No, you cannot avoid any and all damage in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, thanks to those doors. Putting them aside for the sake of having fun playing my favorite franchise? Well worth it. In fact, this is what I'll think of doing for my birthday. Choosing to do something that I care for, entirely devoid of worries over whether or not it'll do well on YouTube. That being said, feel free to prove me wrong by making it do well regardless, by leaving plenty of love in the form of likes, subs, and comments down below for more Zelda runs, if they interest you. Of course, I'd love to do more. The next video will not take as long of a wait, don't worry. I had started working on it before switching gears to this. Winter is coming up, and once my fall semester of college is up, I should have some more free time to devote to YouTube for a small time. And with that, I have said everything I need to say. apart from my final goodbye.